Web Marketing That Works podcast, episode 143, with today's guest, Andrew Morello from Yellow Brick Road.
Welcome to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. Come behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments and listen in as amazing guests confess the truth about what really works. Now, here are your hosts, Adam Franklin and Toby Jenkins.
It's Adam Franklin here, your host for today for the Web Marketing That Works podcast. This is the show for people who love marketing on the web. I'm going to take you behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments and look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'll confess what's failed and reveal the truth about what really works. The show is brought to you by the book that Toby and I wrote, also called Web Marketing That Works. And there's a gift for you, our listener, and that is the bundle of 33 free marketing templates. So you can get your hands on those at bluewiremedia.com.au/book. And today's guest is Andrew Morello. You may know him as the winner of The Apprentice on Channel 9 with Mark Burris. And you may also know him as the Business Development Manager at Yellow Brick Road. I first came across Andrew at a conference that I spoke at earlier in the year. He was fantastic, and also I've been following him on social media ever since. He's been doing some cool stuff, not only for his own personal brand as a speaker, but also as Business Development Manager with Yellow Brick Road. So with that introduction, let's head over to the show and hear direct from Andrew Morello. My name's Adam Franklin. You're listening to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. And on the line, I have Andrew Morello from Yellow Brick Road. How are you, Andrew?
Good, Adam. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. I've been following a lot of your work on social media channels and online, so I'm really excited to talk to you today about some of the things that are working well and some of the things that you've got planned as well. So to kick things off, I thought...
And some of the challenges, I assume.
Absolutely, yeah. The challenges are the things that make us human, and we can always relate to that. So absolutely. Yes. So firstly, let me just ask you, what types of digital marketing are you using for your own personal brand at the moment?
Well, look, my personal brand, I've really focused on my my Facebook, my Twitter account, and my Instagram. Across those three mediums, between followers and friends, I'm hitting around 25 to 30,000 now across the three mediums. But the good news is, and I know probably you might have dealt with people that have had a lot more, but I've got a very active. So if you're keeping an eye on my stuff, you'll see I get a large interaction from people, and I get a lot of comments, and I get a lot of people sort of lead generation for either speaking events or lead generation for one of the businesses that I'm a part of. So, and as well, it's a great way for me to stay in touch with the general audience that's been very loyal in following me.
And are you tending to do most of that yourself in terms of posting the content and also interacting with fans?
Yep. So I'm doing the Instagram and the Facebook and the Twitter myself. The public page, Facebook, I've now just engaged someone to come in probably 2-3 times a week and work for a few hours each time to sort of work on that content. I've, for the first time, been able to sort of monetize, my online presence as well. So only recently did we start to see if somebody would pay to have me sort of endorse a sort of a product or, a partnership group that I've got. And we thought, well, let's try productizing it. So we threw a program together that's like a sort of a $900 program plus GST, and what it includes is a few posts, some interaction, some videography if they like, some videography or an interview with them. And that's being managed now by a guy that studied some digital marketing at uni. I'm not quite sure where he wanted to go yet. He's a son of one of the executives at Yellow Brick Road. And I said, look, why don't you? He was an avid follower of my content, and he had some great suggestions for me. And he's sort of got my following from sort of 10, 15,000 to 30,000 over the last sort of 12 months.
That's fantastic that you're able to monetize that. So
yeah.
Did you reach out to people for this process, or did you put some information up and put it out there and waited for people to nibble?
No, mate, so I get approached obviously by a lot of friends already to support their businesses, and I'm happy sort of to do that. But then I caught up with a lady named Mariana Friccioli, who had quite a lot of followers in sort of the food and the healthy food space up in Queensland. And I gave her some mentorship around sort of monetizing her business, not necessarily her following, and becoming more efficient and effective there. And in return, she said to me, everyone loves what you do, and probably my stuff, Adam, I think there's a balance between being business savvy and also not being contrived. So I think people like the fact that there's a little bit of randomness to my social media and that it's probably a little bit more raw and real. And obviously from that, people approach me. So what happened was I got approached by a couple of people that I wasn't friends with. And, this young gentleman who's basically managing this stuff now, he said, well, there's people that charge for this. And I said, yeah, but no one's going to pay me. And he said, why don't you let me ask? And he asked. Reality of the beast was they were happy to pay. They probably would have paid more. And they also paid for the videographer as well. So we're doing some filming at a couple of other businesses next week. And they pay for the videographer and pay for the post too.
That's really cool to hear that that's possible with, that 10 to 20 sort of, or now 30,000-ish following. That's really encouraging. And now, how does that compare to what you're doing in your role as business development manager at Yellow Brick Road in terms of digital marketing?
Yeah, so I'm at Yellow Brick Road in the social space. We run a pretty strong LinkedIn campaign. So what we do is we partnered with LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn business manager. She comes in probably quarterly and talks strategy with us. We're running sort of job listings and sort of other sort of relevant mediums through the LinkedIn, strategy. So what we do is we sort of A/B test a bit of stuff. We do stuff around Mark Burris. We do stuff around Andrew Morello. We do stuff around franchisees. And we do stuff around business writers, so credit writers and authorised reps. From what I'm told, using our sort of account manager, and this is where I sort of tell people you need to, in this space, be very open to getting professionals. So, I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is that they try and do everything themselves. And I go, well, it's a small investment into some expertise or some professional advice. And the other recommendation I often make people is don't be afraid of trying something. So that's what we did with the LinkedIn stuff. We did a bit of trial and error, and it seems like we've got the formula right now. And then recently we brought with Yellow Brick Road from a customer lead generation. And now, obviously, my personal customers at Yellow Brick Road are our franchisees. So obviously my job is to find new franchisees, new credit reps, and new authorised reps. That's really important in this digital space to understand who your actual customer is. Often when people are promoting through their social media or spending money digitally, they're actually promoting to the wrong segmentation. So, a prime example of that is, people think, what's a good example? So first home buyers, I did some work with a first home buyer company a little while back in Western Australia. I won't mention names for confidentiality. But what we realised is their actual clientele base or who they were promoting to and marketing to was not actually first home buyers, but rather the parents of first home buyers. So what we did is we looked to run a campaign, an outbound call campaign, and then also a digital campaign where we went back to their database and we used Facebook marketing and we also used Google AdWords. And there's a lot of parents that were wanting their kids, especially when the first home buyer grants were quite a lot bigger than they are now. A lot of parents were looking and Googling, how can they sort of give their kid a gift of money for the deposit so they could get first home buyers so they could buy a property. So we realised pretty quickly that with that, these people were solely promoting to, 28 to 35-year-olds, when the reality was that a large portion of the segmentation of their market was actually parents wanting their kids to buy property.
That's so interesting how important actually knowing the buyer persona that you're targeting is, and that's a very good example there.
And a massive misconception that a lot of people have.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's fantastic that you've uncovered that. What are some of the challenges that you faced with digital marketing or things that didn't quite go according to plan?
I think, look, I'll start with the social media space because we all know the stories about that. When you putting stuff up on social media and when you're putting yourself out there digitally, you are opening up yourself to literally the World Wide Web, and you've got to really be at peace with yourself and at peace with who you are and your business. and you really need to hold that credibility and be prepared not to strike back. Obviously, I'm very lucky. We get 95% of the time, 90 to 95% of the time, extremely positive feedback about Mark, about myself, Mark Burris, about myself, Andrew Morello, about Yellow Brick Road. But are you going to get some people that don't like you or don't like it or don't believe in what you're doing, obviously? So you need to probably have a strategy in place and certainly a methodical process to dealing with that as well. And what I found the biggest mistake people make is when they have those people attack them effectively, what they do is they go into retaliation mode, and it actually makes the whole situation a lot worse. So I always recommend to people to, first of all, have someone cool, calm and collected that can respond to any things of that nature. Number two, I always recommend that you need to keep an eye on it. So you need to have someone sort of screening it. If you're not in a business big enough to have a team doing that, then you need to sort of allocate as an appointment each day an element of prospecting and reviewing and cleaning up your social media / digital marketing. And last but not least, I think you need to be proactive rather than reactive. So the biggest mistake I see with people, especially in the SME space, is that they're very reactive. And because of that reactionary sort of mindset and mentality, a lot of opportunities, or they burn people along the way.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make there about being exposed to the whole world on the World Wide Web, because people can turn feral in social media comments, and that sort of sense of being semi-anonymous just sometimes can bring out the worst in people. So it isn't for the faint-hearted. So when you do get some particularly vicious comments, is there a line in the sand that you've drawn where some comments you delete, other people, you might block them, or do you respond publicly to all of them? What's your sort of take there?
We generally don't delete them, because I've found that if you delete them, it only stirs the pot even more. So what we do is we try and, look, we're at a big enough level where we've got quite an experienced team that can provide responses to people that are sort of within the guidelines of what we can and can't say. But I think there's what we've done in some cases, actually, Adam, it's interesting that you bring this up, is we've been able to approach the person privately on private messenger, try to alleviate what their concern was, what their complaint was, and then ask them if their complaint was alleviated at the end of it. So nice, easy scripted dialogue. If we were able to alleviate these stresses or these problems, would you be okay with removing their comment? And we probably have a 60% success rate in doing that. So, but I think if you delete it yourself, you're really opening yourself up to more, if not worse, trolling.
That is a really neat technique to approach them directly via instant messenger.
Yeah.
Alleviate their concern and then let them bring it down. That is...
Yeah, but you need to pre-frame that at the beginning of the conversation. So, we get our sort of external affairs team, but you could do this as a small business owner as well, where you contact them and you say, look, I realise what you're angry about, I realise this, but we really, believe in what we do and we believe in feedback, and you may even at times remind them that you have the option of deleting that comment, but you don't want to delete it because you actually believe in your business, you believe in what you stand for, and what you do want to do is create a better experience for this person on the other end of the line. I think you need to, go out there with the olive branch and then make a second and informed decision if the response isn't positive.
Very good. Now, are there any other tips or techniques or anything you'd like to get off your chest before we call it a day on this interview, Andrew?
Well, look, I think, it was funny because I was at the UFC yesterday. I do work with Crown Resorts, and they invited me to go as one of the guests to go watch the Ultimate Fighting Championships down in Melbourne. And, I did some sort of Facebook Lives from there. We were ringside and I had a chance to meet some of the, the great athletes that were fighting and some of the entertainment and so forth, the presenters and even some of the ring girls, which was a bit of fun. But it was interesting because the people I was with reminded me that, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, like 7 years ago, definitely, I was anti-social media. I think, I'm a very much relationship guy. I'm very much face-to-face because we've met each other before at conferences. That I'm, that's what I generally speak on. But the reality was that I, now having a social media presence and having an online digital presence is so very, very important. So if someone's dipping their toe in, I think you need to be prepared to wear your heart on your sleeve. I think you've got to be prepared to show some vulnerability. One of the biggest mistakes is people try and make it all perfect. And I could give you a classic story. I'm not sure if Adam, you had a chance to meet my brother at the conference that we were at, but my brother is quite a conservative character of nature, and we're in the property game. And I was in Phuket, and if anyone's been to Phuket, no, Koh Samui, Thailand. And if you walk down the main strip of Koh Samui, there is like a theatre show. That's part of their culture, by the way, with, the sort of the lady boys, that they do the show on the street, and they do like a cabaret show. And we're walking through the main strip, and, they're out on the street and they have photos in their bikinis, their sequins and their feather boas and all that. And I took a photo with them. And my brother rings me as I posted it, and he goes, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm Koh Samui." And he says, "Mate, you need to take those pictures down." And I asked him, at the time I had sort of 5,000 friends, 5,000 followers, and probably a couple of thousand on Instagram. So there was probably 12 to 15,000 people had seen it. And he goes to me, "Oh, you got to take it down because it's not in line with our professionalism." And I paused for a moment and I thought about it. And there wasn't anything inappropriate that was happening in the photos. It wasn't, you see my social media, I don't put anything inappropriate there. And it is a part of the Koh Samui culture and the Thai culture. They have these ladyboy cabaret shows, like families go and watch them. And there was, I've never been to actually one of the shows, but these are the ones that were out on the street. And we had a bit of a photo as a bit of fun on a trip. And we're actually there for a conference. So I was with the people that were with me with the conference. And my brother said to take it down. And I turned to my brother and I said, "No, if I take it down, then the world that actually follows me will start to think that I try and plan everything that I do." And I said, "There's nothing inappropriate there, and nobody has seemed offended by what I've put on there." And they didn't. People liked it. People made some comments. They made some fun comments. Nobody wrote anything inappropriate. And I think that's the difference between if somebody said to me, "What's my unique selling proposition," whether it's in the digital space, whether it's in the social media space or personally, is that I am Andrew Morello always. And that is the trick, I think. I think the more people try and plan things and contrive things, I think the more disingenuous and unauthentic you come across. And if you want to get some real buy-in from people, some real buy-in from brands, and most of all, some real buy-in from the audience that you're trying to appeal to, I think you do need to show that bit of vulnerability and be prepared to show a bit of blood. Because I think if you're prepared to show a bit of blood, people will be prepared to bleed with you. Yeah.
That's a very interesting point to finish on, Andrew, because it's scary for a lot of people to reach that level of vulnerability. But as we can see with your success with social media and your profile, it works because people get to know the real you. And of course, they like you more because of that. Yes. Now, Andrew, where can people find you on Twitter and Instagram?
Yeah, great. So it's pretty simple. So my Twitter is at Andrew Morello. It's nice and simple. My Instagram is at Andrew Morello. It's nice and simple. My personal Facebook that they can follow is Andrew Marcello, which Marcello is MARCELLO. So that's Marcello, Morello, MORELLO. And last but not least, there is the public page, and that's just at Morello Public, which is my public Facebook, and you can check all that out. And my Instagram's at Andrew Morello too. I also have andrewmorello.com. Yeah, and if you want to get in touch, get in touch. I actually try and get back to most people personally. I do have somebody passing any sort of messages on to me that I don't get back to. But, a prime example was yesterday with someone who saw me speak at a conference in front of 1,000 people in Brisbane, didn't have an amazing experience with the local Yellow Brick Road, contacted me personally at 9 o'clock last night on Instant Messenger. I read him, wrote him back saying I'd get someone to sort it, sent it to my state manager in Queensland. They texted me this morning saying that the new person who called him has given him a world-class experience. So that's what it's all about.
Oh, that is awesome. That is a fantastic story to finish on there, Andrew. It's obvious that you care. It's obvious that you're doing a great job and people love your work. So thank you very much for joining us on the Web Marketing That Works podcast, and have a fantastic day.
My pleasure. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me.
And that's a wrap for my podcast chat with Andrew Morello. A couple of interesting points there that I particularly liked. Firstly, how he responds to the inevitable negative comments that you will get when you do put yourself out there on social media and the web in general. And nice to know that he says you've got to actually, believe in yourself and believe in what you stand for, because there may well be, and there's likely to, no matter who you are, even if you don't have the same profile as Andrew, you may get a negative comment at some point, and nice to know how he responds to those, that he doesn't, get upset and get, retaliatory or defensive or anything. He has a system to reply. But the fact that if somebody makes a negative comment, he won't delete it because he finds that just stirs the pot even more. I really thought it was cool how he would actually approach these people through Instant Messenger, so through a private channel, and ask them how he can alleviate the problem and how he can make good on what they were upset about or angry about. And the fact that leads to 60% of them taking down their comment, I think is really cool. I mean, it demonstrates that he cares. It demonstrates that they want to do the right thing by people. And I think that's one of the huge opportunities that social media allows us to do, is to show our human side. So great tips there from Andrew. I highly recommend following him on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook as well. So I hope you found that interview actionable and practical. If you've got feedback or guest suggestions or anything else, drop me a line, adam.franklin@bluewiremedia.com.au. And if you enjoyed the birds chirping in the background, that's because I'm out at the Gap in Queensland for this particular episode. And listen, if you have got 60 seconds now to leave us a review or rating on iTunes, that would be absolutely fabulous. It helps keep our visibility high so that we can continue to get good quality guests like Andrew Morello on the show. So with that, I look forward to seeing you on the next show. Take care and have yourself a good one. See ya.